So what does the word open source mean? Open source, like I said, means nobody owns it. Okay, you have a Windows computer. Most of you have a Windows computer. And who owns Windows operating system? Microsoft owns Windows operating system. If you want to make any changes to it, you cannot, because the code is closed source. The code is not available to you to make changes. On the other hand, if you have a Linux operating system, it's open source. Anybody can make any changes to the open source code. You just make changes to the code and customize it according to your needs. So Python is an open source. There is a lot of people, a lot of developers who give their input to make the programming language better. So you will also have a lot of help outside. Yes, Mac is also closed source because Apple owns the MacBooks or the Mac. Python is platform independent, means you can run it on Mac, Windows, Linux. You don't have any problem with that. And it has, like I said, Python is open source. It has a lot of third-party modules. What are the modules? We will discuss down the slides. And number one, see, why do you want to learn anything? For the money, right? End of the day, you need Benjamin Franklin bills. So Python has a lot of job opportunities. A lot of job opportunities. So, like I said in the very first slide, what does it mean Python has an easy or simple syntax? So, in this slide, I have 4 programming languages, the syntax for 4 or the code for 4 programming languages, which does nothing but prints a simple line, hello world. See, in the Python, we can do just in a one line, print hello world. That's it, simple, it'll do it. In C, you need to first import the standard input output header module, write the main function, printf, return 0, and close the function. In C++, it's same, 4-5 lines. In C Sharp and the Java, you can see how much code you have to write to get a simple output of a one line, hello world. Another reason why I included these 4 languages, many learners, those who are new, they think C, C++, and C Sharp are the same. No, it's not. Even though C is the mother of most of the programming languages, even Python is written in C. But C, C++, and C Sharp, they are all different languages. Just so you know, some people, even when I was new, I had a confusion. I thought these all were same, but no, they are not the same. They are different languages. So this slide explains how easy the syntax of Python is. So before I start teaching Python to you, just few things about how we will do this or how we should do it. See, gaming football is not equal to playing football. You're like, what? What does that mean, Raj? Like, what does it mean gaming football is not equal to playing football? Okay, if I ask you a very simple question, is playing football on Xbox or computer, is it the same thing as playing football out on the field? And you would very obviously say, no, we're not dumb. It's not the same thing. So exactly, it's not the same thing watching somebody else write the code or type the code versus you writing or typing the code yourself. It's a very different thing. Sometimes we just keep on watching YouTube videos and we think we know. Nope, you do not. Because once you start type the code, once you start write the code, it's a whole different ball game. It's completely different. So this is the mistake number 1 newcomers make. That's the same mistake I made, and it's basic human nature we all make, is we avoid keyboard. We just don't type, we just watch. That's a mistake number 1. Don't do that. And mistake number 2 is we repeat the mistake number 1. What I mean to say, loop 1 means that is a very big mistake. That's what I'm trying to say. And number 3 is lack of consistency. See, I'm not gonna sit here and try to motivate you to learn Python. That's I think morally wrong for me, because we all have our own priorities set. You know, somebody wants to just pass through the classes and want to have a business once he's done with the college, or somebody goes to college to impress a boy or a girl sitting next to him or her, or you have your priorities, I have my priorities, Donald Trump has his priorities. So it's just a matter of priorities. So I'm not going to motivate you to learn. If you want to learn, I'm just going to tell you the truth. If you're not consistent, you will not learn it. This is a very good chart. There was a research done by a German or a French guy back in the 19th century, in 1850 or something. He did a survey in which information that was given to a person on day one, if he or she does not repeat it by the end of the week, she or he only had 5 to 10% information retained. So that explains, it has nothing to do with how smart you are or how intelligent you are or what is your IQ level. This is how human memory works. If we do not repeat things, we forget. To keep things in our memory, we have to repeat. So if you're not consistent, you're not going to learn anything. It's not just Python, anything. And I know I'm pretty sure you all know that, but it's just still a very simple thing that we still miss. So you have to be consistent to learn anything, and Python especially. So from an outsider to a star. So this slide I was thinking about while I was creating this slide, what can I put in it? So today, let's say it's in October, right? So day one, you start today and you just be consistent, and 23rd October. What are the things you can do? Okay, you asked me a question, Raj. Okay, I'll be consistent for a year. Now what? I guarantee you, you will be able to write very good scripts that will automate boring tasks. Matter of fact, within a few weeks, within 2-3 weeks, you will be able to write a scripts that will help you find the addresses from command line. You don't even need to go to Google to type in the address. So you have to open the browser, you type in google.com or the maps.com, then you type in the address and then you see it. So you will be doing it with the just simple one command. Data analysis is very big in Python. You can do a lot in a year and steer your career towards data analysis, or write web applications, make software tools. What you can do with Python, it's just your imagination is the limit. Python gives you capabilities to do anything and everything. Okay, so this is the most important slide for the day. I want you to listen to this very carefully. Oh, this is just a poem by Robert Frost that I learned when I was in 9th or 8th. So the poem is when you have to choose one of the two paths in life. It's like making a decision. Once you make one decision, you will never be able to come back and make the other decision. So we will be taking an unorthodox approach. What does the unorthodox word means? If you Google it, it will tell you something that is not traditional, something that is not conventional, something that society or people doesn't do normally. That is unorthodox or unconventional. Where I bet you most of you watch cricket. If you do watch, if somebody plays a funky shot, sitting down trying to hit a ball in the boundary in the backside of the keeper or something, they say unorthodox. What does it mean? It means something that is not normal, unorthodox approach. So what do I mean by saying we will be taking unorthodox approach? I mean to say we will be learning Python in a way that nobody in the world teaches newcomers to Python in that manner. I'm not trying to say that I'm the best teacher in the world, no. But nobody teaches you Python in this way. You go to Harvard, you go to John Hopkins, wherever you want to go, you can go. Your current college, you probably will realize it because that's not the way your college is teaching you. There's nothing wrong with the way your college or anybody else is teaching. That's totally fine. But I still feel we are, or if somebody is willing to learn Python, he is smart enough to understand the concepts that are the foundational concepts of the Python in the beginning, because it changes the whole scenario. Let's say if I tell you today, after 2 weeks, you will meet Logan, Molly, and Gracie. I don't tell you anything else. I just tell you after 2 weeks, you will meet Logan, Molly, and Gracie. And now over the 2 weeks, you will think about, okay, and I'll give you a bit more information about, I'll say, Logan is very friendly and Molly is a bit odd I just give you a bit of information about each of the names that I tell you. Now, over the next 2 weeks, you'll be thinking, oh, okay, this is how I will approach to Logan, or this is how I will approach to Molly. But after 2 weeks, when it's the day of revelation, or to reveal who those Logan, Molly, and Gracie are, I bring out 3 dogs. You'll be like, Raj, why didn't you tell us they were the dogs? I thought they were the humans. That's what it means to take the unorthodox approach. Until or unless you know what you're dealing with, your perspective will not change. If I tell you right in the beginning, if I would have told you right in the beginning you're going to meet 3 dogs, you would have approached the next 2 weeks in a completely different mindset or a completely different scenario regarding that particular situation. So same way, we will be taking an unorthodox approach and bringing out the cat out of the box right in front, so you have a very clear perception of the things, and you can view things in a manner that you should view in. That's what I mean to say by the unorthodox approach. Okay, so let's begin right into it. So when I mean by unorthodox approach, this is what it is. If you have never seen a font size of 100, this is what a font size of 100 looks like. It's very big, I know, I'm sorry for that. But I wanted to make a point. Everything in Python is an object. Everything. Just forget about if somebody says not everything, just forget it for the time being. Just believe it. Everything in Python is an object. Now, what is an object? Don't worry about it. I will explain you everything. So just remember one thing. Everything in Python is an object. Simple as that. That's what whole Python is. If you understand this, you will understand the whole programming language. Now, okay, so Raj, you said everything in Python is an object. Now tell us a bit more about objects. So in this slide, I have 4 objects. Object 1, Object 2, Object 3, and Object 4. So if you look at the heading of this slide, it says objects have attributes and methods. So attributes and methods, so 2 things. So Object 1 is a bicycle, Object 2 is a car, Object 3 is a semi-truck, and Object 4 is a chopper or a helicopter. So look at the first attribute of Object 1, bicycle. Bicycle has a color. And Object 2, it also has a color. And Object 3, semi-truck, it also has a color. And Object 4, chopper, it also has a color. So see, even though they are all 4 different objects, but they have something similar. They have something in common, that is the color. Now let's come to the second attribute. It has 2 tires. So bicycle has 2 tires. How many tires does car have? 4. How many tires does semi-truck has? 10. Chopper doesn't have no tire at all. So now, even though the first 3 objects had an attribute of tires, but they were still not the similar. They were different. What I mean to say is, even though they have similar attributes, but it doesn't mean they are the same object. Bicycle is a different object, car is a different object, truck is a different object, and chopper, it doesn't even have that method. It doesn't even have tires. So each object is different. They might have things that are similar, but still they are very different. Same way, the third difference is the bicycle needs to be pedaled by the rider. The rider has to pedal it to move the bike. And the car is fueled by gas, and the semi-truck is fueled by diesel, and the chopper is fueled by aviation kerosene. So the top speed is also different. And the last one, bicycle needs land to operate, car needs land to operate, semi needs land to operate, but the chopper needs both land and air to operate. So the fifth object, the attribute for the fourth object is a bit different than the first 3. So the only point that I'm trying to make over here is, even though different objects might have same methods or similar attributes, but still they are completely different objects. So this is what the whole Python is about. Python has a whole lot of objects. And the moment you realize it, that every object is different and every object is independent or has an existence of its own, you will start learning Python so quickly and so easily. Let's get to the next slide. Okay, so it's just a very basic slide. There's the variables in Python. We all know what variables are. We'll just go through a definition just because of the sake I've written it over there. A Python variable is a symbolic name that is a reference or a pointer to an object. Once an object is assigned to a variable, you can refer it to by the name of that, by that name, whatever the name of the variable is. So Python has usually two kinds of data types: immutable and mutable. Something that can be changed after it is created, or something that cannot be changed. What I mean by changed, every variable can be changed. If I say a is equal to 5 and down there I can say a is equal to 10, it doesn't mean you cannot reassign the value. Change means some portion of it. Let's say I say Rajkaran Singh. A string is Rajkaran Singh. If I try to remove the only Singh and replace it with something else, you won't be able to. Or why? Because strings are mutable or immutable data types. And just a few things, a few rules of Python. Rule number 1, variable name starts with A to Z or A to Z, capital A to Z. I'm sorry, there's a lowercase z. It should be a capital Z or an underscore. It's a very simple, I'm pretty sure you all know it. And variables are just the pointers to the memory. And there are two kinds of variables. The user defines, the ones you define, and there are many built-in variables that Python, once you load the Python, there are many variables that are already for you to use them. So like here, we can see what is a string. This is a string variable. This is an integer variable. On the left hand side is just a name of the variable. On the right hand side of an equal operator is the value for that variable. So string variable, numbers is a integer variable, that's a list, and this is a tuple. Don't worry, we will discuss everything in detail. This is just a rough slide I just created to just for the sake of creating a slide. That's it. ID function, used to see memory. This is one good function that I want you to just keep in your memory. We will discuss more about it. The ID. What does the ID function do? ID function gives us back the memory location of where that variable is stored. If you look back in the definition of the variable, it says a Python variable is a symbolic name that is a reference or a pointer to an object. It just points to an object. What does the name do? The variable name just points to an object. It is not the object itself. It is just a pointer. If I say it's sitting over there, so same way object, where are the objects? Objects are in the memory. And ID function helps us find the location of the memory. So now in our case, name. What is the name? Name variable is Guido van Rossum, right? So now if I do ID name, it gives me back this random number. It tells me that this data, this value is stored at this byte in the memory. So name is just a pointer to or a reference to that byte in the memory. Okay, it's very simple, but still we will discuss it, like I said, a bit more in detail. So with no more further ado, all that I said, I want to show you now that what do I mean by everything in Python is an object. So that's the main thing that we'll be doing today. So I want you, if you want to, you can. If not, just look at me, what I'm doing, but you gotta try things on your own afterwards. Like I said, if you won't try it, you won't learn it. It'll give you a false sense of knowing things, but actually you won't be really knowing things. Okay, so you all know, let's say, so now this is a string data type. What is a string data type? It's just a collection of characters. Now if I see what string is, oh okay, I'm sorry, just so you know, if you don't know what I'm in, it's a Python shell. If you go to your search and if you just type Python, you'll have this interactive shell. I know most of you are using Visual Studio Code. You can use that as well, but it's a bit easier. So just open the Python shell and it's just a bit easier. So now like I said, there are two main functions that I want you guys to remember for the today. One is ID. What does the ID do? ID just tells us where in the memory that data is stored, or ID tells us what A is pointing towards. A is pointing towards this memory in the this location in the memory. And now the second one is type. This is the most important function for the day, type. If I do type, and what are functions, we will discuss that as well. I'm pretty sure you already know it, but just in case if you didn't know, don't worry. Like I said, we are just taking an unorthodox approach in which I want you to be familiar with the objects first. What does it mean to be an object in Python? If you're familiar with that, everything else is easy. Okay, so now, what does the type function do? Type function tells us the type of the object. Like I said over here, I'll go back to the slide once again. See, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Every object is of different type, right? This is the object bike, this is object car, every is of different type. Same way, let's say A is equal to, like I said, king, and B is equal to 45, and C is equal to a list. I'll give a list. And lists can store every kind of data type, each element. So you have to separate it by a comma. List can store both strings and integers, even Boolean. What are Boolean? We will discuss it as well. So now, so we have, what is A? If I have to check the type of the object. Now, string is an object, integer is an object, list is an object in Python. Everything is an object. And also, like I said, every object has its own methods and attributes. I will show you what I mean by that by going through it. So now, type, let's start with the A. Type A. The type function tells us what is stored in variable A. Variable A stores a string object. What does it store? A string object. Forget about the word class. We will come to it also. Just remember, what does the type do? Type just tells us about the type of the object. Now, if I do type on B, what do you think the answer would be for the B? If you are thinking it's an integer, well, you're right, correct. So if I type B, it says int, right? So now if I do the same on C, it's a list. So see, each object is different. A is a different object, B is a different object, C is a different object. Of course, because you must be thinking, Raj, there are different data types. String is not integer and integer is not list. So of course they're different. Very good if you know that. So now, what do I mean by, let me go back here. So see, this has a bicycle, or object 1 has many attributes. It has color, it has 2 tires, it has blah, 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 blah. So it has a list of different objects. So now, Raj, show us what objects does string data type has. Now, there's another function called dir. If I do dir on the A, let's just first we see what is stored in a string named king. That's it, a string of value king. Now, if I do dir on A, what does the dir function do? Dir shows me all the methods and attributes related with this data type. Now, what kind of data type is A? Data type of A is string. If I print it, forget about all the dunder ones, the ones with the double underscores. This is something we will come later to it. It's a bit more advanced for you, but just remember from here. Is alpha, is ASCII, is decimal, is digit, is identifier. All these are the methods and attributes of what? Of string object. Now, just to make it clear, if I do D is equal to queen. Now we see D has a value of queen. Now if I do dir on B, what do you think its methods and attributes would be? Do you think it'll be a bit different, or do you think it'll be the same? If you're thinking it's going to be the same, Very good. Why? Because they are the same data type. King is a string, it's the same object. String is a string. It will have a same, like I said, object is one object is one object. So see, it has the same attributes: is alpha, is ASCII, is decimal, is digit, is identifier. So just please let me know in the chat if these are if I'm making sense. If not, I'll try to reinvent and explain it in a different manner. Just let me know in the chat if so far we are clear and good enough